and welcome to the Wilder Lincolnshire podcast from the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust. I'm Melvin Pryor, out and about, and it's been a fantastic year so far this year. So for the final episode, we thought we'd look back on the year, but look forward to 2026 as well. Paul Leroyd is the CEO of the Wildlife Trust. He's with me now at a very special location, aren't you?
Yes, morning, Melvin. Yeah, we're here at Hawthorpe, just in the heart of Lincolnshire, and hopefully one of our newest nature reserves.
Indeed, we'll touch on that in more detail in a moment. But looking back over the year, it's been quite a successful year for the various sites that you've got around the county, including the shorebirds as well.
Yeah, 2025, amazing year. Teams worked really hard across the county, but the shorebirds at Gibraltar Point, great results for our little terns, always under pressure, but the volunteer day and night have seen 15 chicks fledged. So really impressive result for a ground nesting bird that puts itself at quite a lot of jeopardy. The only breeding site for little terns in Lincolnshire. So 15 birds away, 15 chicks away is a really impressive result.
And that really is quite a commitment there, isn't it, for the trust? Because, as you mentioned, the volunteers do a sterling job.
Yeah, we've got a staff and volunteer team, and next year we'll be celebrating 50 years of that effort. But yeah, they're one of those species that make it very hard for us. Gibraltar Point's a very popular place to visit, so of course we have to create some boundaries to keep the visitors away from those nests that are nearly invisible on the ground, just these little scrapes with a couple of camouflaged eggs that would soon go under the foot if you weren't careful.
What's nice about today is we can look back and just appreciate some of the successes that we've had. Harrison's Home, what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, that's a little land acquisition. So we had a few land acquisitions during the year. Harrison's Home is really an extension to our grounds at Bannervalham House in Horncastle. So land we've owned for many years, but there's been this tantalising little field across the road. Gets a bit of flooding, gets a bit of wildlife on it on the confluence of the Bain and the Waring in Horncastle. So working with the East Mercia Rivers Trust to see what we can do on that land, but nice to have it in our ownership as Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust.
I've really appreciated the fact that I've been able to go onto some of the sites over this past year. One of the highlights for me was eventually seeing a bittern. Now, not on my first visit to Farrings, because that was a day spent looking for bittern, but on a return I did actually see one. But that's been a real success story as well, hasn't it?
Yes, so little tern, bittern, crane, they're really kind of quite totemic species that, we're really proud of our contribution to see them, doing well in Lincolnshire. Bittern has very specialist habitat requirements. Farrings has got that sort of conditions, but really takes a bit of work to look after them. And the team up there, Simon and the volunteers have been working over the years. What we've had is really kind of great results that since about 2017 had about 50 pairs that have come off as chicks from that land. So that's been a great testament to the management work, but not just at Farrings. That means now we've got spare birds that we can contribute to the other sites along the Humber Bank and perhaps further afield. So nine chicks fledged in 2025. Going forward, there'll be more sites along the Humber Bank with bittern there.
Will they make their own decisions because they want a bit more space, so they'll move into a slightly different area then?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's only so much one site can take, and we've seen that with the cranes at Willow Tree Fen. Actually broke the rule book for Willow Tree Fen. The cranes are there in much greater numbers than you'd expect for a site of that space, but it's because there's now less habitat for them, or there's not sufficient habitat. So the vacancy signs across Lincolnshire's wetlands, they're going fast. So where do our cranes breed next? Where do the bitterns breed next? They just need a certain type of wetland habitats, and we hope that that can be established in more places across Lincolnshire.
Well, that's why it's important that you're acquiring extra areas of land, like where we are here now. Just explain where we are and why this has been important for the Trust.
Yes, so earlier in the year, we were made aware that Hawthorpe, there was a for sale sign on the Hawthorpe farm land, just over 200 acres. What's special about it is that it's been in set aside, the old agricultural scheme that was designed to not produce so much food. You remember those grain mountains and wine lakes. I'm not sure Lincolnshire contributed to the wine lake, but that was the scheme that had this piece of land taken out of arable production. And excitingly, it's been left fairly dormant during the many decades since then. So we've got really exciting blank canvas. It's had very little chemical, little bit of grazing, some sheep and the deer that wander, but really something that we can do some amazing stuff for wildlife.
And where we're standing at the moment, we're right beside the East Glen, which is a really important linking tributary, isn't it?
Yeah, so the East Glen, we've got there's a West Glen as well that all feed down into the River Welland and out into the Wash. Beautiful streams. They come from the limestone, so it's groundwater. We hear a lot about chalk streams, but these limestone becks are very special indeed. And we've seen here the impact of the recent floods. But interestingly, this year, of course, has been a period of drought. We may forget that with the rain dropping on us at the moment, but we've only had a couple of months of kind of average or above average rainfall. Rest of the time in Lincolnshire, it's been drought. But there's a little pond on this site that's on the Victorian map, so it's been here for a very long time. And the exciting thing is that pond, even though it's quite high up on the site, didn't dry out at all during these drought conditions. And it's all about the geology and the water beneath our feet. So there's lots to learn about this site. Not everything will be just as obvious to the eye as the shorted owls and the red kite and things that we've been able to see while we've been here.
Well, earlier today, I went out onto a scrubby area of the site with Chair of the Trust, Libby John. So we're out at one of the highest points of Hawthorpe with Libby John, Chair of the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust. What a special area this is.
It's fabulous, isn't it, Melvin? Yeah, welcome. It's really nice to be able to share it with you.
Now, you've been wandering around in the rain early this morning. What have you seen so far?
Well, I was greeted by a beautiful red kite that just landed on the grazed field there and was so splendid. So that was lovely. I've seen a number of tits, a little wren foraging along the glen, and we're listening right now to two dueling skylarks, which is really fabulous.
Absolutely amazing. Now, this is a lovely spot here. We're between the village of Hawthorpe and Irnham as well. But this is a very special area because it's not been cultivated for quite some time.
No, we understand it hasn't been cultivated since 1980 or so, which makes it very special. It means the soil's completely undisturbed. When we get to look at it, I'm sure very rich in soil invertebrates, and it'll have been sequestering carbon all that time. Above the soil, we see a lovely diverse flora. I think 73 plant species have been counted so far here in our early surveys. We know we'll find more as we continue to look. And we also know we'll be able to encourage more as we manage the site for nature.
It's an area that, as we've said, hasn't been disturbed agriculturally for quite some time. But the exciting news is it's going to be acquired by the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust.
Absolutely, yes. We are very excited about that. This is super exciting. It's 220 or so acres of this wonderful undisturbed farmland, right in the middle of Lincolnshire. So it's a really exciting prospect for us, actually.
Why is it so important to protect it, though?
Partly because of that special status in having been undisturbed for so long, partly because it's for an opportunity for us in the Wildlife Trust to apply our management know-how and skills to really elevate the biodiversity of a large bit of Lincolnshire. And we know there's wonderful wildlife all around and here. And yes, it'll just save a place for nature and people. So we know that local people are very excited and have been quite concerned because they were worried when it was going to be sold, because local people have seen the short-eared owls and the other hunting birds here, and they've thought it was quite a special place. So I think we're working with locals. We also know that the neighbouring farming estate is very keen to work with us on nature. So it's a real opportunity for nature. Nature in the UK is at a pretty low ebb, so anything we can do to give it a boost in Lincolnshire is a very exciting prospect.
We often talk about nature corridors, don't we? And this provides another link for very important corridors, helped by the river that we've got flowing through.
We're on the banks here of the East Glen, which flows from north of here, down from areas like the Boothby Estate, through this patch of wonderful grassland here, and on south to our nature reserves Willow Tree Fen, where we have the cranes, so and lots of wildlife. So it's a really important bit of river. The other thing about it is nature needs connectivity. Whether you're in a river or a flying thing or a pollinator or a plant, you need connectivity. And so this provides a patch of connectivity in a bit of an empty space.
You mentioned Willow Tree Fen. I was there last month for the previous podcast. What a special place that is. And this, at its early stages, you can see what potential places have.
Absolutely. We bought Willow Tree Fen when it was an arable field, and we were able to convert it within, what was that, 15 years into the first breeding site in Lincolnshire for cranes in over 400 years. They just came. So we think the opportunities for Hawthorpe will be similar. Who knows what it'll bring? I'm very excited, for instance, to see this mixture of grassland and scrub. So we know lots of bird species will love that scrubby habitat. We know that lots of pollinators will love to will enjoy the grassland, especially as if we're able to improve the plant diversity. Lots of pollinators already do. So we have high hopes for enriching the insect fauna, including butterflies, as well as birds and plants.
You mentioned you'd seen red kite when you arrived. When we got here, there was some actually on the ground, and it seems a good spot for them. We've seen several flying since we've been here, haven't we?
Yes, I think for a number of hunting birds, it's an excellent site. Yeah, for the raptors and the owls, it seems, because this kind of long grass, scrubby vegetation, of course, is excellent for small mammals, and small mammals provide the food going on up the food chain for things like short-eared owls. So
Yeah, well, as we arrived, this again is connecting with the local people. We were walking along the road, and a local resident just pulled up in the car and said, "Are you looking for the short-eared owls?" And it shows there's a connection. People love their private, personal connections to nature, don't they?
They do, and we do know we've had many letters of support for our acquisition of this site, and one of them was from our local community of enthusiastic naturalists, and they're very excited about us having this site. And I'm sure we will be working with them to survey the site and manage it. I'm sure we'll be looking for volunteers to come and help out here.
Let's talk about what we can see from here. We mentioned the river which runs along the bottom. That provides a boundary to that edge, then, does it?
It does. So our, I guess that's our western edge is set by the East Glen River, which is flowing very nicely today. It's been quite rainy recently. And our eastern boundary then, the furthest eastern boundary is set by Temple Wood, which we can just see from where we are here.
Yeah, this is a really good spot. We talked about the connectivity. I know that your passion is plants and those sorts of things because we've been out and done some verge side reports, haven't we? And I think you're sort of tying that together really with what we've got here and the verges across the county.
Absolutely. Well, in this part of Lincolnshire, we have some fabulous verges, which are really diverse in flora, and we mow them carefully every year. If we can save those mowings, then we can use that green hay, which will be full of the seeds of all those different plant species, to try and enhance the plant species richness of this site. So that will help this site become a repository for those special communities that are now restricted to those roadsides in Lincolnshire, or often restricted to those roadsides.
Libby John, Chair of the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust, out and about at Hawthorpe. I'm still here with Paul, the CEO of the Trust. It's really fascinating looking at the site now. Have you decided quite what you're going to do with it, or will that all depend when you actually get on and can start doing things?
I think the answer is not quite, and every time we come for another look, we slightly change our minds. So that's that's our prerogative. We're allowed to look, learn, and develop those ideas. We've known about the site since about April. Others have known about it for longer than that, but we've not been able to give it an all year round look. Get the baseline surveys have started, but we don't know the exact detail. But and every time we had a colleague down here, they found something different. So lots still to learn before we make any final decision. And then we'll also let nature steerers, and what we see, where the plants are, where the soils are perhaps slightly differently, will influence our final approach.
What I loved, and I mentioned with Libby a little while ago, when we arrived this morning, there was a local resident driving past, stopped, wound the window down, and said, "Are you here to see the short-eared owls?" And it shows this connection locally, doesn't it?
Yes. So, I mean, what's really critical at this time is, we're still fundraising for the site. We don't own the site yet and don't have that possession. So, big appeal for it. But yeah, the response from local people and across Lincolnshire and beyond has been incredible. But yes, whenever you stand on the site, and you can visit by coming down the public highway through the middle of the site, people can see the short-eared owls, the red kites. We've had hen harrier quartering over it, and by the spring, the butterflies are along the road verges and in the field. So very accessible to people already, even though it's not a nature reserve just yet.
And hopefully some of those local people will be volunteers helping in the future anyway.
Yes, I'm sure they will be. We've had a really great demand for how they can engage in the site, and just those early records of what species they're seeing, and even just during this year, we've had kind of new breeding species recorded by locals spotting them. So that all contributes to the knowledge and how we take it forward in the years to come.
Your challenge as CEO must be to, you love the wildlife, you love the nature, but there's a fine line between that and what policy will allow you to do.
Yeah, I mean, Hawthorpe's a really good example, which is actually on its own, it's a wonderful site, but it will be much better by how it links in along the River Glen, the corridor, in the wider landscape, because we're surrounded by some lovely woodlands and some hedgerows, very little grassland. So speaking to the neighbours and landowners in and around the area is going to be really important. But what they can do and how they can do it will be driven a lot by policy. And this year, 2025, has been quite challenging for policy changes. Lots of different things up in the air. We want to see biodiversity net gain contribute to our wider landscape. We want to see our most sensitive sites protected, but we also really want to see landowners and farmers encouraged to do things on their land that don't just produce food, but actually contribute to water quality, soil quality, air quality, and biodiversity. So that's a real challenge in these. In the challenge of policy debate that we sometimes get.
And a lot of farmland, they will have edges that they've set aside, the phrase we used here, but for wildlife. So you do work together, don't you?
Yes, doing it together is really important. It's not an either or. It's about what can be best achieved together. We need to produce food from our landscape here in Lincolnshire, really important part of what we do. But if we were stood exactly where we're stood now, just a few weeks ago, the water would be coming over the top of our Wellington boots. And actually that water then becomes flood water downstream into our villages, roads, other infrastructure and towns. So actually what can we do in this landscape that means that the water can be better managed? That water that was essential during the summer when we face the drought, and then in the winter becomes a hazard because it's damaging the land and property. So working together, it's a win-win. It should be for a lot of these initiatives.
What's that phrase? Slow the flow?
Slow the flow, yeah. Slow the flow is something we can do on this landscape. And actually, by slowing water on this land, not only does it slow it getting into the rivers, it will go into the aquifer. So we're stood on an aquifer here that is the water resource for thousands of people in this area. So if cleaner and more water is going into that aquifer as a result of not just what we do on this bit of land, but up and down the catchment, could be a really great contribution.
And of course, projects like this at Hawthorpe are only possible from people's donations, aren't they?
Yeah, we've got a big fundraising challenge ahead of us to be able to secure this piece of land. So launched an appeal, and it's been an amazing start. So we've been really grateful to people across Lincolnshire and far beyond that have made donations already. But that appeal is live on our website, the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust website. You can find out more details about Hawthorpe, what we plan to do, and it's where we're going to keep people up to date going forward. But yeah, please check out that appeal. It's going to be a great start, but much more to do.
What I love about the Trust is the variety of places that you have. And the other week, I had a private visit with my wife. We went along to see the seals at Donanook. Totally different because you've got so many people there, but also so many seals.
Yeah, delighted this year. The seals at Donanook have bounced back. 2024, we were a little worried because there was quite a substantial 25% reduction in pups born and quite a lot of uncertainty as to why that had happened. So 2025 Donanook seals seem to be recovering. We'll wait for the final figure. We have seal pups born right up to Christmas Day, and a huge shout out to the kind of volunteers and staff that are supporting that site. Another success story on the coast as well. Natterjack toads, another species that we've been working with our partners at Natural England to make sure the kind of numbers re-established and the distribution and the numbers of natterjack toads across that part of the coastline, that dune system, been phenomenal. So
Very special if you can go at night to hear them.
yeah, that's the best time to see it. It's a very elusive species. You won't see them during the day. It's actually very hard for us to be able to share that experience. Again, your earlier podcasts are a great way of experiencing that evening experience.
Let's stay with the coast and something that wasn't so positive, and this was the nurdles. It's a word that I think we all dread, but that became a bit of a challenge as well, didn't it?
Yeah, so this was all back in March, the North Sea ship collision, which for many of us was quite career defining. We hear about these international incidents, but to have one in a sense on our doorstep, just off the Yorkshire coast, but all the issues came down to us on the Lincolnshire coast. It's a dreadful situation. They're believed to be a fatality, but for us, within days, we were seeing the pollution.
What goes through your mind when you hear that? You're thinking, goodness, this is going to wash up on our coast now.
Well, by coincidence, I was on a beach the morning that collision was reported, and the sea was tranquil, and you thought, what on earth is going on out there? But within days, we were getting these reports. But of course, the picture is, animals and the beaches covered in oil and all these horrible things. In the end, it was nurdles, just to explain, small little plastic pieces, smaller than a piece of sweet corn, and it's the industrial material for making all your plastic products. So these little bits that was turning up on our beaches, but some of them, because of the fire, some of them were huge lumps of molten plastic, and you could stand on the beach. We focused on Gibraltar Point, back to the breeding shorebirds. We were really keen to get that material off the beach quickly.
Thankfully, it happened before the breeding season just started.
Only just. So we focused our staff and volunteer effort on that sanctuary area at Gibraltar Point. It stank. It really was smelly. It wasn't covered in a kind of liquid, but you could smell it in the air. I was there one Saturday morning, and the Coast Guard plane was flying overhead, taking photos and recording where the slick of polluting material was going. And the partnership working with the local councils, some international interest in that as well, and incredible work done by staff and volunteers to get most of it off. We're still picking bits up, but we had teams running up and down the Lincolnshire coast. But quite a shocking incident to happen on your patch.
Now, one of the podcasts we also featured earlier in the year was from Woodall Spa. Again, a very different site there. There was an appeal launched and it was successful.
Yes, Woodall Spa, airfield, all the surrounding nature reserves, very highly sensitive sites, very special species on that. But its history and heritage linked to the RAF presence that was RAF Woodall. And a separate fundraiser got some money so we could put a separate memorial on that site. And that was successful financially, and I think it's been very well received by people.
So as we come to the end of 2025, are there particular things you want to mention looking back on the year, or should we look forward to 2026?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's to kind of thank the great team that's out there, the staff that work for Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust. Very special this year. We've been able to appoint 3 of our trainees, and that training program, great to have. And a lot of staff have come up through different development routes. Thanking our volunteers, incredible group of people right across the county, whether they're looking after the seals on the beach, doing the crane watch, right through to a whole range of kind of practical and support activities. And then our membership and supporters, we see they visit our nature reserves, read the magazine and talk to us. Really grateful for their support. So 2025 has been very special. 2026 we're really looking forward to, yes.
Very good. Well, we look forward to coming back here to this very special place and seeing how it changes over the years as well. Here at Hawthorpe, just off the road between Irnham and Hawthorpe Village itself. Hopefully, you've enjoyed this latest edition of the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust Wilder Lincolnshire podcast.